having a set of what we call human rights is somewhere to go to, somewhere to point to when our human rights are being abused. It's nice to have a document. I just think that businesses and governments will try to exploit people as much as they can because it's all about profit for them. And it's nice to have somewhere to point to and say, look, these are the principles that are being agreed on. You should not be doing what you're doing. We know people get away with it all the time. And you know, we're always kind of struggling to get people to respect human rights, but at least we have somewhere to go rather than just saying, you know, it's a dream I have, you know, wouldn't it be nice if we could all live together and all that kind of stuff. It's nice to have a document or an organisation to go to and say, look, these are the principles that we all agree on. I am kind of worried about the world at the moment because there are so many big governments that are kind of pushing against human rights. You have sometimes at the United Nations a government pushing for human rights in one area and completely going against the principles of human rights in another area. And I think that what's happening at the moment in the world is that some of the countries, some of the biggest countries that should be really leading the way when it comes to human rights, really being examples of what the best practices are when it comes to respecting people's human rights, are not doing it. Sometimes one can forgive some countries that are developing and have got new governments and are just, you know, trying to struggle and make their way in the world. But when you have established, you know, so-called democracies that are kind of should be leading the light, when you have them kind of not upholding people's human rights, one kind of thinks, well, what is the world coming to? These people should be our great leaders. You see, when I think about human rights, I know that there's people who are all over the world who are being tortured, who are suffering in kind of really much worse ways than I have ever suffered. But I have to kind of start with myself. I was thinking about my rights to freedom, my rights to walk the streets late at night, and my rights not to be abused because of the colour of my skin. Later on in life, I came across racist organisations, and I used to see the police, who should be protecting all of us, and certainly protecting us because we were the victims, protecting the racist, you know, on demonstrations and things like that, and not protecting us. So those are the things that made me become an activist. It was personal, and now looking back, I mean, it was important to me. But as a kid, I used to look at what was happening in the world around me, apartheid in Jamaica, the struggle against segregation in America. And I always thought that their struggle was much more important than mine. Actually, they're all important, because when people get away with small injustices, they just kind of get bigger and bigger and bigger. Politicians and people like that speak in a particular way that we have to say sometimes alienates people. The arts speak to people directly, you know, and they kind of can infuse and inspire people at a real grassroots level in a way that politicians can't. The anti-apartheid movement, you know, really respected us poets and musicians because we spread the word much more than the basic campaigning did. You know, and we did pop songs, we did poetry, paintings and all that kind of thing, which really spread the word against apartheid. The right to education is the greatest liberator of all, and I think that's really important. The kind of education is also very important. You know, I've been working in the Caribbean recently, and I did say to a group of children that, you know, you've got to concentrate and do your education. And they pointed out something to me. They said, the most educated people in our country are the most corrupt. And I said to them, you have a point, but you have to educate yourself better than them, to do better than them, you know. But one thing you will know about your oppressors, if your oppressors are male, female, black or white, they're all educated, they all know their stuff, so we have to know our stuff. Every human right is really important, you know. If you ignore, if I as a man think that the rights of women is not important, I will change my mind when I have a daughter. There are lots of different cultures around the world, lots of different religions, lots of different traditions, but I believe that we can work together to find a way to just guarantee the basic human rights for all of us that respect all religions and all traditions, and just get on in the world. It's not scientific, I can't prove it, but I do believe that at the end of the day, good will overcome evil, but we have to work at it.